Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Play on GAA podcast. This is the Club Roundup, and this is another episode of the Hurling edition. Luke, last time on the Hurling edition, we were talking about Loughmore Castleiney and John McGrath scoring 4 goals and 6 points as Loughmore Castleiney got through to the next round. This time, he's done it again in the semi-final. He scores a goal and 12 as Loughmore Castleiney win by 1 goal and 18 points to Borrisolee's 1 goal and 15 points. We'll start with this semi-final and then we'll move on to Thurles Sarsfield's win after. But what a victory for Loughmore Castleiney and into the final with them.
Yeah, huge victory for them. And I suppose, look, the thing that I suppose everybody kind of notes about Loughmore is kind of the fact that they are this dual club. They're still in the football too. And look, it's an incredible kind of achievement to be able to balance kind of that kind of professionalism between both codes in a club is just so rare now. You look at clubs across the country, I think, look, they have to probably be one of the highest achieving dual clubs. Like there's clubs that do well in hurling and football, but to share players each week that they've nearly identical football and hurling squads is a fantastic achievement. And as well, you look at that team, so many of them are so, like, there's so many relations, there's so many brothers, so many cousins in that team. So it's a fantastic achievement for them. Such a close-knit kind of unit and a real kind of, a great kind of story, I suppose. Like, you look at some of the club teams, they'd be like city clubs or they'd be town clubs. And this is a real local community that have done so well in the last couple of years. And look, it's great to see them in the county final.
100%, and that's a great point you made about the closeness with the families. You look at the McGraths, you've got John, Noel, Liam, Tomas, Aidan McGrath in goal as well. Such a household name around those areas. They managed to build such a successful team from such a small base. And like, let's not, kid ourselves here. This is a huge result as well. When you look at the names in the Borrisolee team, you got Paddy Stapleton there, you got Dan McCormack, Brendan Marr. Like this was no weak Borrisolee side. And to get this victory, with such a small crop of players, as you were saying, that are also so committed on the football side of things, it just makes the achievement even better.
Yeah, and look, I think an important thing to add as well is that they're missing Brian McGrath, who's pretty much will be a starting player for Tipperary next summer. Like he's kind of worked his way into the team as a sub mostly this year under Sheedy. But look, I think realistically, most people will probably be confident in predicting that he's going to be a starting player for Tipperary under Bonner. So to be missing him as well, coming up against that Borrisolee side that were in an All-Ireland club final 2 years ago, the last time the club final was played, it's an absolutely huge result for them. And look, I suppose it certainly helps. I think that when with the form that John McGrath's in, so, yeah, look, he's been absolutely unplayable kind of in this club championship, and that as well has to be another huge plus for Colin Bonner watching on.
100%. And moving into the other semi-final then, Thurles Sarsfields, they beat last year's champions Killadangan. They won by a goal and 19 points to Killadangan's 2 goals and 14 points. 2 late points from Paddy Creedon and Aidan McCormack. They kind of saw Thurles Sarsfields home. This is a very, very strong Thurles Sarsfield side. Obviously, you've got Pádraig Marr, you've got Ronan Marr, Michael Cahill, Pat Burke. And then on the other side, with Killadangan, they're by no means a weak team either. You got Barry Hogan in goal, you've got Willie Connors, Billy Seymour up front, who in my opinion is one of the most underrated forwards in the country. You've got Alan Flynn then at centre back as well. This was a clash of titans really, and Thurles Sarsfields to come out on top against last year's champions, rightfully so, they'll back their corner going into the final now.
Yeah, look, I did tip Killadangan as my team kind of. I thought we're going to win Tipperary. So, look, I think this was the game on paper that everyone was kind of looking at straight away, and it's between probably the 2 best teams in the county. So, yeah, look, I suppose I was kind of looking at the Killadangan team winning it last year. I thought they might brought them from strength to strength. So, yeah, look, but they really put up to Thurles too, though. It was a really, really close game right to the end. But ultimately, a big factor, I suppose, in Thurles' kind of emergence this year is kind of the form of Paddy Creedon in the corner, he's been an absolute revelation. He's been their top scorer from play in the championship by a mile. And, at the weekend as well, especially scored 5 points from play. And look, he looks the real deal. So, look, he had an absolutely huge game as well. And you're looking at kind of Aidan McCormack up there as well, kept the scores ticking over, and as well Paddy Maher done the usual kind of where it nearly seemed like he kind of had the ball was being sucked to him the entire game and that it couldn't avoid his hand. So it was a huge performance by him. So that pretty much, they were kind of, I thought, the big factors that got him over the line in the end.
Without a doubt. And you mentioned earlier on about obviously Colin Bonner, the new Tipperary hurling manager. Is there any real player or which players have kind of caught your eye this season in the Tipperary Championship that maybe will have caught Colin Bonner's eye and we can kind of keep an eye out for them next year perhaps?
Yeah, well, look, I think it's impossible to ignore Paddy Creedon right now. And look, he's been involved with the Tipperary under-20s. He already had a reputation coming into it. But look, his form has just been absolutely sensational. So, look, it'll be very, very hard to ignore him from Colin Bonner. And I would fully expect that he's going to get game time in the National League next year. And look, we'll see what happens from there. Other than that, I suppose from the other finals, Lockmore-Castelline, you think maybe John Ryan at wing back might get a shot as well. He's looked very, very good, big unit of a man. So he might be in with a shot. And kind of, I think maybe looking down in the Senior B Championship, there's a forward called Sean Ryan that has been the top scorer in all levels of kind of club championship for Tipperary, all from play. Absolutely huge man as well. Similar kind of physique to Kyle Hayes, but he's scoring huge tallies for his club. And I think he's played a bit of kind of underage hurling for Tipperary in recent years, and I think there's a good chance that Bonner is going to call him up and give him a bit of league time. Maybe as well, one other name, I'll go with Alan Tynan from from Roscrea is a team that has a player that might make the jump as well.
Yeah, and I'll throw one more in there. Billy Seymour, obviously been on the scene for a few years, never really been given a fair crack at the whip in my opinion. He might have his year in 2022. So now that the final has kind of been decided, we have it Lockmore-Castelline against Thurles Sarsfields. Both sides have looked hugely impressive in various ways throughout. Which team are you backing to get the job done and be champions?
Yeah, look, I'm going to go with Thurles. I think, I suppose after kind of backing Kildangan the whole way, and so the nature of Thurles' win and stuff, I think it's kind of natural kind of progression to move on to backing Thurles. But as well from that, like, you're looking at the spine of that team kind of, and it's so strong. So, look, I think it'd be very, very hard to bet against them with Paddy in full and Ronan and centre half back. And like, I think that's pretty much as good as it gets. Like, so in any club team with that spine in your defence, you're halfway there already. Look, they look free scoring in the other end of the pitch with Creedon, with Aidan McCormick, with Pa Burke and the two Stakelums. So although kind of Lockmore-Castelline they've been so impressive and John McGrath's been so good, I think the Thurles are probably the best equipped to maybe shut him down. And then if they can kind of keep John McGrath quiet, I think Thurles just have a better kind of rest of players to supposed to get over the line. And look, it's a very strong Thurles team, and they might, if they can get over the line here, I can see them going quite far in Munster as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I'd back them that if they get through this game, they'll be a huge force in Munster. And Munster is shaping up to be an absolute cracker. You've got Kilmallock in there. You've got Ballygunner in there. So it's going to be fireworks either way. So moving on from the Tipperary Club Hurling Championship to the Dublin Club Hurling Semi Finals, a memorable weekend. Na Fianna qualified for their first ever final, defeating Luke and Sarsfields quite comfortably. A goal and 20 points to 12 points. Colin Curry got the big goal. Huge result for Na Fianna. Fair play to them.
Yep, absolutely. And look, all of a sudden, kind of, despite never kind of being in a club hurling final before, this like Na Fianna team was starting to look very, very good. Kind of, it's a very young team. You look at the two Currys, you look at Donald Burke, age all on their side, kind of AJ Murphy up there as well. Like these are really, really exciting young players. Kind of, I know Donald Burke's kind of established for a while, but the Currys kind of haven't really made the inter-county breakthrough just yet. I'm sure they will very soon. But it's very, very exciting, the Fianna team. And then you throw in at the start of the year the addition, kind of the transfer of Liam Rush into it, playing centre half back, like it mixing kind of that experience in with that youth. So it's all of a sudden it's become a very, very strong team. And look, they've kind of annihilated everyone in their path so far.
100%. And as you mentioned, they're very, very good up front. They've got Donald Burke, Colin Curry, Sean Curry. They're very, very talented all around. And then you throw in names like Shane Barrett as well into that team. It's a very, very strong Na Fianna side. In the other semi-final, Kilmacud Crokes knocked out the Giants. They knocked out Coola, the 2017 and 2018 All-Ireland Club champions, and really the dominant team in Dublin hurling over the last decade, if you like. Coola, they're out. They lost to Kilmacud Crokes by 118 to 113. I have to give you credit. You called this. I went for Coola to win. I thought O'Callaghan was looking back to his best and all was kind of falling into place for Coola. But they're out and Kilmacud Crokes are into the final.
Yeah, look, I think this was kind of a passing of the guard moment where a Kilmacud team with so much youth kind of into it that, like, you look at Brian Sheehy in full back, you look at Pádraig Lenihan, you look at Mark Grogan, all these kind of Fergal Whiteley, all these young kind of Dublin players as well. Darragh Purcell, of course, too. Kind of Dublin underage superstars that have kind of pushed through onto the starting team for Kilmacud. A really, really young team. And they've gone in there and they've beaten a Coola team that have been dominant for so long. And it's kind of nearly feels like a Coola team that they've started to lose kind of some of the mainstays from that All-Ireland double winning team. So, yeah, look, I think this was kind of a moment where Kilmacud announced themselves as kind of a team that's going to become a powerhouse of Dublin hurling, and there's so much potential in that team. Like, you look, particularly Brian Sheehy looks an absolutely fantastic prospect in fullback, and like for Matty Kenny, I think he has to be looking at him straight away because the job he done on Con in the second half in particular, he completely shut him down. And for a player that's coming straight out of under 20 hurling like this, it was an absolutely huge job he done. So, between himself and kind of all the other young players in there, it's a really, really exciting kind of Kilmacud team. And you throw in kind of the two lads in full forward, Ronan Hayes and Alex Considine. They've got goal threat in there too. So look, very, very good performance. And you know what? They probably should have won by more than 5 points, barring a late Sean Moran free too.
Definitely. It was a good point that you made about Matty Kenny looking at some other stars. We did it with the Tipperary Club Championship. So we'll do it with the Dublin as well. Is there any other players that Matty Kenny should kind of be keeping an eye on coming up to next season?
Yeah, well, look, I think from this game in particular, I think he can kind of he could take his pick from Kilmacud at the moment. Like you look as well, centre half back Bill O'Carroll kind of looks back to his best. I remember a few years ago he played in that game against Kilkenny and Parnell when Dublin got so close, and he always looked really, really solid for Dublin. He still looks really, really good player in there too. I really think that Brian Sheehy looks inter-county standard right now as well. And obviously, I know he's very, very young, but Darragh Purcell is exactly what Dublin are calling out for, a natural scoring forward. And I know he's only about 19, but like he looks like somebody that could be very involved very, very soon for Dublin. So yeah, I think a few of those names kind of have a really, really good chance of kind of making the jump as well. A few other lads, maybe for Luke, and I thought maybe Kieran Dowling in the forward line could be somebody that might make it. He's had a very good campaign. And then from Craig Kieran, maybe Keane Derwin.
Yeah, they're all definitely good shouts there. I think Colin Curry from the Fianna is another good shout to get onto the Dublin senior team over the next few years, if not next season. So now in the Fianna into their first final, they're in there against Crokes, who, while they would have a little bit more experience of finals over the last few years, they have a very, very young team, as you mentioned. So which out of these two would you kind of be backing to win this game now?
Look, I think this is a really, really fascinating game because I think the Fianna kind of are still like a bit of an unknown quantity that they've kind of come this year, that they've strengthened. The addition of Liam Rush has kind of really catapulted them into contenders. And like, it's very, very hard to tell exactly where they are. They absolutely demolished that Lucan team at the weekend. So, and that was a Lucan team that beat Bowden as well. So like, it's in a way kind of, like you're looking at this kind of and you're thinking that they haven't really been tested too much all year and that they've absolutely powered into the final as well. But I do think it's hard to look past Crokes. They do have the know-how as well. I know they haven't won it since 2014, but there's plenty of players in there that have won championships before and they've won leagues. So like I do think that Crokes are the favourites. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Fianna win, but if I was to put my head in the line, I would go with Crokes to win by about 3 or 4.
Yeah, I completely get where you're coming from. Me personally, I'm going to go with the wild card. I'm going to go with the Fianna. Their first final, I think they'll play for the occasion. They've got Liam Rush and Donald Burke. Tough to look past the Fianna for me. I wouldn't, same as you, I wouldn't be surprised if Crokes won it, but I'm going with the Fianna by 1 or 2 points. Very, very tight game, I'm predicting. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if either team came out on top. So
yeah, but look, I think that's the most important part of this now is that kind of the emergence of two kind of really exciting teams in Dublin. And it's what Dublin hurling needs, kind of. It's kind of this period where it's been a bit stagnant for a while, not huge progress. And if two teams coming in with kind of young, kind of exciting talent in both of it, facing off against each other in a game, which is really, really hard to call. It's only going to strengthen hurling in the county, and hopefully these players can just be brought through. We've mentioned so many under 20 players that have seemed to have kind of taken huge jumps in this championship already. And so look, just hopefully from a Dublin hurling fan perspective that these lads are given a shot kind of in the National League next year and stuff as well, and given a chance to kind of continue that club form into inter-county and just get Dublin back kind of competing for Leinster titles.
100%. And speaking of sides being in their first ever county senior hurling final, Ina Kilnamona have achieved the exact same feat as Na Fianna. They won by a goal and 17 points against Éire Óg Ennis's 17 points. Clare All-Ireland winner goalkeeper Pat Kelly saved an injury time penalty from Danny Russell. He tipped it away, and Ina Kilnamona are into the final just on Pat Kelly. He is one of the bravest hurlers I think I've ever seen. The one moment that sticks out for me is when Anthony Nash was taking that free and Pat Kelly ran out and took it straight in the shoulder. He is a madman, but he's managed to make one of the most important saves in Ina Kilnamona's history, probably the most important save in the club's history, and they're into their first ever final. We'll talk about the other semi-final in a minute, but first we have to start with this game. What a save, what drama, and what a day for Ina Kilnamona.
Yeah, look, it's absolutely huge, and they've looked impressive throughout the whole thing. But although kind of the only kind of worry for them, I suppose, is look, it's a fantastic achievement for them reaching the final. It's hey, it has come at a cost though, and look, they lost Aidan McCarthy to a hamstring injury kind of midway through the second half in this. And by the end of it as well, Davy Fitzgerald in midfield as well was barely moving whatsoever. So look, that's the big worry for them going in, is that their two kind of marquee men are definitely going to be carrying injuries going into that final. And with the nature of Aidan McCarthy's hamstring injury, like it's going to be one of those that the more you play in it, the more it gets aggravated. So it's a big call for him coming up. I know he's got a club final next week in the football. So it's a really big decision for him, and I'm sure Brian Lohan will be watching it closely too. But yeah, look, I suppose going back to kind of the Ina Kilnamona kind of performance itself, kind of some big performances. Particularly, I think, at Conor Hegarty at centre half forward. I think he was the man of the match. He hit 5 points, and look, he looks like a prospect.
100%. And what do you think is really the key things that kind of saw Ina Kilnamona over the line? You mentioned about Hegarty's performance. Was there anyone else who stood out to you?
Yeah, look, well, I suppose kind of that it's the other kind of obvious example is Jason McCarthy at centre half back. Like, he's been on Clare panels like plentiful for the last couple of years. He's been I think he's still kind of knocking around as well and stuff. Josh Gollier as well in corner forward had a really good game too. So between all them, and then obviously the Pat Kelly save at the end, some really good performances. They were really pushed by like a strong Éire Óg side that like Shane O'Donnell was back to the peak of his powers as well. So it was kind of to overcome all that, to overcome the injuries and to get over the line in the end. It's absolutely massive for the two towns.
No doubt, and they're definitely buzzing for that final, their first ever. Looking into the other semi-final then, Ballyea, who were without Tony Kelly, they still got the job done, beating Newmarket on Fergus in the other semi. The goal in the 50th minute from Aaron Griffin was absolutely huge. Ballyea were drawn level with that goal, and then Niall Deasy's point 5 minutes later proved to be the match winner. What a day for Ballyea. And you know what? It would have been easy to kind of write them off. This is a hurling team that has serious potential. Apart from Tony Kelly, they've got Gary Brennan there, who was also a fantastic hurler, even though he spent his whole career kind of playing football for Clare. And would you back them now in the final?
Look, I suppose I'm kind of half looking at the Aidan McCarthy injury, and without Aidan McCarthy and maybe with David Fitzgerald not fully fit, I know Ballyea missing Tony Kelly, obviously the best player probably in the country right now, but I'd probably lean towards them now due to the injury sign of Kilnamona. I think if Ina kind of had a full strength team out, I would probably lean to them. They were my picks for the Clare Championship earlier on and kind of a few weeks ago in the pod, but I'm probably going to lean more Ballyea now. I think, but it's when you kind of take out Tony Kelly and you still look at the players that they have as well. We were talking earlier about kind of Turles's centre kind of central defence partnership. And so with Ballyea, you've got Paul Flanagan and Jack Brown, so two starters for Clare, kind of playing fullback and centre half back. and they were really, really good for Ballyea at the weekend. And in a low scoring kind of tight game, they cleared an absolute world of ball. So look, they'll be huge. And the other thing as well is the influence of the footballers that they have in the Ballyea team is absolutely huge. Like you already mentioned, Gary Brennan, his brother Killian played for Clare as well. Pierce Lillis plays for Clare. Cathal O'Connor at wing forward starts midfield as well. Aaron Griffin's is a Clare footballer too. And these, although they kind of they're not playing kind of intercounty hurling, they have intercounty experience and look unbelievable skill levels as well. So when you kind of you look at that team, even without Tony Kelly, like it's still a really, really strong team. And you kind of nearly half look at it and wonder if they had Tony Kelly to throw back into that forward line, how far could this team go? Because there's some like really, really unbelievable talent in that team. And if you threw in a marquee player like Tony Kelly, like it looks a very, very good team on paper.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And I'm back in Ballyea to get the job done in the final. Then who knows, Tony Kelly might return and they might be even stronger. Before we go, Ballycran, they beat Portaferry in the Down Club Hurling Final. Massive day for Ballycran. Fantastic performance, fantastic victory. Now they're in the Shark Tank now up there in Ulster. They got Dunloy, they've got Slough-Neil. Do you think that they have a chance against either of these teams?
Look, I think they're going to be a little bit behind. I suppose you look kind of maybe at previous years up there when Ballycran have won up in Down and they have got like through into Ulster Championship games. And look, I think Dunloy and Slough-Neil, just with the level of kind of intercounty experience, the two of them, and I suppose even with Slough-Neil as well, with the club championship experience, it's going to be a big, big ask for them. But look, I think they've achieved their goal for the year. They won an absolutely huge game up there for them. Portaferry had beaten them the previous year, so they got their revenge in that. And it was a really, really dramatic game. 3 red cards, gone to extra time. The game had been moved to Newry as well after kind of a waterlogged pitch as well. So it was, it's a great, great result for Ballycran. And they've kind of, after a few years, have regained their title up there. And you know what, they'll give it a fair old crack up in Ulster. So between the 3 teams up there, the Ulster Hurling Championship will be a great, great watch. And look, they'll be keeping an eye now on kind of on Dunloy and Slough-Neil. And look, whoever they get anyway, they'll give them a good game, I'm sure.
Yeah, I backed them to give them a good game, but I'm not sure how much I'd back them to get the job done. But regardless, massive congratulations to them on their Down Club Championship victory. And just before we go, Kevin Moran, Waterford hurler, Waterford hurling legend, he's finally retired after 16 years playing senior inter-county hurling. He didn't start last year. It was kind of looking like they were trying to go more youthful. Kieran Bennett kind of took a slot at left half back. But Kevin Moran has been an absolute legend for Waterford hurling ever since he kind of really nailed down a spot in the team around 2007, 2008. Fantastic servant, this guy, to Waterford hurling, and happy retirement, Kevin.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I think the bit that kind of stands out to me when I think back to it is that 2017 season where I just thought he was absolutely unplayable, and he approaching to kind of the end of his career, to put in those levels of performances in the year that Waterford kind of dragged themselves to an All-Ireland final. You think back to that semi-final performance against Cork and that as well. Like he was absolutely huge that year. He won his All-Star wing forward. And look, that's kind of what I think of when I think of Kevin Moran playing for Waterford, I suppose. And he's probably is the right time for him kind of maybe to step away after some unbelievable service for many, many years there. And look, he's an absolute legend for Waterford, and he's going to be one of the first names that people think of when they think of that kind of Waterford team over the last 10 years, I suppose. He was a real kind of heartbeat of that team. So yeah, absolutely kind of a legend kind of down in Waterford. And it's a shame to see him kind of go.
Yeah, all the best, Kevin. So yeah, guys, that is the Club Roundup episode 4. We hope you enjoyed the episode. Don't forget to look at our other stuff, including the football action, the Club Roundup. And until the next episode, guys, take care.